With the UK Masters kicking off tomorrow, we were expecting a great opening game between John Higgins and the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan, but it turns out Ronnie has pulled out at the last minute due to medical grounds. Take that as you will. Me, I'm taking that on face value. If he's pulled out on medical grounds, that could be a whole host of reasons. There's loads of meanings behind that. I'm not going to sit here and try and pinpoint why he's pulled out. Ronnie O'Sullivan picks and chooses what tournaments he wants to play in half the time, and a lot of the time he does skip out the little tournaments. But he did play in the Champions League the other day. He played 3 games, lost 3 games. He was supposed to play the fourth against Addy Carter, but didn't even bother turning up for it. So something's not maybe quite right mentally with him. They do say, and I mean this with all due respect, that if you're going to be a genius at something, it's got to come with some sort of insanity and obsession. You hear it all the time from sports personalities. To be the best at what you do, you've got to be a little bit crazy. And Ronnie O'Sullivan, on the exterior, he does come across tough a lot of the times, but deep down, he's a fragile, fragile soul. So Ronnie, the other day, he was playing in the Champions League. Maybe he turned up just to get a warm-up for the Masters. So that's what I mean. Surely he had his mind set that he was playing on the Masters, because the Champions League's not the most biggest draw for Ronnie O'Sullivan, but he did turn up. He ended up, like I said, losing 3 games. Supposed to play 4, didn't turn up against Addy Carter. The previous game against Christopher Wakelin, he had lost, missed a shot, ended up booting his cue. There was talk about his tip wasn't right and all this, but it's looking like mentally he just ain't ready to return to a snooker table at the moment. And obviously, what makes it more worrying is the fact that players like Judd Trump have come out and said maybe Ronnie's not mentally right at the moment, and you may not see Ronnie play a lot more snooker in the near future. So we could be seeing the end of Ronnie O'Sullivan. I really hope he plays in the World Championships, because I love him. He deserves to go on and win that 8th title and be the record holder to confirm, to cement his GOAT status. So this could be the last time we do see Ronnie O'Sullivan. I do wish him the best, because when you think of snooker, you think of Ronnie O'Sullivan. When you think of 147s, you think of Ronnie O'Sullivan's 5.5 minute 147. The geezer is snooker. And without him in snooker, it's going to be a whole different sport. People tune in just to watch Ronnie. Me, I like watching all the players. I love watching snooker. But the casual fan, they're tuning in for Ronnie the Rocket O'Sullivan. Right, let's continue with the preview of the Masters. It kicks off tomorrow. Stay tuned in the video to see who I think is going to win the Masters. And you may be surprised with who I pick. Comment below who you think will win the Masters this year, especially with no Ronnie. The reigning champion is not competing in it. Comment below who you think is going to win the Masters this year. So let's just quickly run through the format of the tournament. You've got the first round, which is the best of 11 frames. Then you've got the quarters and the semis, which is the best of 11 frames too. And then you've got the final, which is the best of 19. The first part of the draw, so you've got Neil Robertson, John Higgins, Shaun Murphy, Gary Wilson, Mark Allen, C. Dewey, Mark Selby and Addy Carter in that first part. They're all gonna face each other on the path to the final. And going by them list of names, me personally, I think Mark Selby and Mark Allen have got the easier road to the final. They'll probably end up playing each other in the semi. This is the easier part of the draw, is because you've got 4 players outside of the top 10 rankings. So you've got John Higgins, who's just qualified at number 15. You've got Neil Robertson, who weren't even in the top 16, but qualified because obviously he's replaced Ronnie O'Sullivan. You've got C. I can never pronounce his name. You've got C, who's ranked number 14. You've got Addy Carter, who's ranked number 12. So there's a lot of rankings. There's a lot of players outside the top 10 rankings. On the other side of the draw, you've got 6 of them that are actually in the top 10 when it comes to rankings. 5 of them are in the top 5, and only 2 of them are outside the top 10, Barry Hawkins and Chris Wakelin. So players like Judd Trump and Kyron Wilson will find it a bit more harder to progress to the final. Obviously, they've got to face each other as well before they get to the final. And obviously, you've got players like Luca Brazil. Luca Brazil, he won the World Championship. I think he's going to be he's like an enigma like Ronnie. Ronnie had to go and change it. Back in the day, don't you remember? Ronnie was so attacking so fast. didn't really play safe. He had to go and change his game, and I think Luca Brazil, once he does that, changes his game, makes it a bit more granite, you know, rather than going for all these attacking shots, he could come back and he could be a success story again. Everyone's writing him off saying he's not doing this, he's not concentrating on no more, he's lost his love for snooker, he wants to go and do other things. But I think if he went and actually got properly coached in being a granite player rather than being an attacking player, he could be another success story like Ronnie was. So obviously, in my opinion, the bottom half of this draw is a lot more harder, as you've got 5 players in the top 10 rankings, whereas in that top half you've only got 3 players in the top 10 rankings. But snooker's a funny old game, you know, especially when it comes to a big tournament like this, the Masters. You never know. Chris Wakeling can turn up and go and win it. You just don't know. Or the person who weren't even supposed to be in the actual Masters, Neil Robertson. I'd love to go and see Neil Robertson go and win it, especially where he's almost like a wild card, so that will make for a great story. But like I said, snooker's one of them games where rankings sort of go out the window, and it's hard to predict how these matches will go, especially with the old school in there like John Higgins, Mark Williams, you know, they're legends of the game. And then you've got the new school, the Chinese players, who are really, really great tactical players. So as you can see from the screen, I'm going for a Mark Selby, Kyron Wilson final. The reason why I say Mark Selby might surprise a few players. You know, he's been there, he's done it, he's won all the tournaments under the sun, and he's going into this tournament on some great form. I watched him in the Champions League the other day, and the geezer was banging in centuries for fun. So on form wise, on recent form at least, I'm going to go for Mark Selby to reach the final. And then obviously Kyron Wilson, throughout this whole season, through the last 6-7 months, he's just been annihilating players. He's so good at the moment. He's hit this peak now. Obviously, he won the World Championship last year, and he is peaking very, very well. And again, he's going into this UK Masters on great form. So my picks for the final are going to be Mark Selby v Kyron Wilson, and the winner, I'm going for Mark Selby. Comment below who you think's going to win the UK Masters. Hit up the like button, like Mark Selby's gonna hit up Kyron Wilson and win the UK Masters, and subscribe to Sports Almanac. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good night.